Are we in the wrong country? The thought didn't come out loud at first. It stayed somewhere between breath and doubt, suspended in the quiet as the truck engine died. The wheels had stopped turning, but no one moved. Not yet. The air felt different here. Not heavy like the camps in Europe, not sharp with smoke or cold iron. It carried something else. Warmth. Wood. Maybe coffee. Anna Keller stepped down last. Her boots touched gravel, small stones shifting under her weight with a dry, ordinary sound. Too ordinary. She paused for half a second longer than necessary. Listening. Measuring. The kind of silence that wasn't empty, just waiting. Around her, the village sat still under early morning light. White fences. Painted houses. A porch swing moving slightly in the breeze like it had nowhere urgent to be. Somewhere in the distance, a screen door creaked open, then shut again. No alarms. No shouting. No orders barked in a language she didn't understand. Sergeant Daniel Brooks stood a few feet away, hands relaxed at his sides. Not gripping anything. Not even watching them the way guards usually did. He glanced at his wristwatch once, as if this were just another morning, another task already accounted for. Anna noticed that. She noticed everything. One of the women beside her whispered something in German. Low. Tight. The kind of whisper meant to stay hidden. Anna didn't respond. Her eyes stayed forward. There was a pattern to places like this. You watched long enough, you understood the rules. But something was already off. It started small. A woman approached from across the street, moving slowly, carrying a basket lined with cloth. She looked older. Maybe 60. Maybe more. Her steps were steady. Not cautious. Not afraid. She stopped a few feet away. Close enough to see faces. Close enough to be real. Then she spoke. Guten Morgen. One word would have been enough. But it wasn't just the word. It was how she said it. Clean. Natural. Not rehearsed. Not broken. German. Perfect German. No one answered. Not immediately. The silence stretched. Not empty. Heavy. One of the prisoners shifted her weight. Another blinked, like she had misheard something. Anna didn't move. Her breathing stayed even, but something inside her adjusted. A fraction. A recalibration. The woman smiled faintly, as if the silence didn't bother her. As if she had expected it. From a nearby porch, a man leaned against the railing, watching. Then he added something, casually, almost as an afterthought. Side fru angekommen. You arrived early. Different voice. Different tone. Same language. Same precision. Anna turned her head this time. Slowly. Not reacting. Observing. The accent was different. Regional. Southern maybe. But the structure was right. The rhythm was right. This wasn't imitation. This was familiarity. A child's voice followed from somewhere behind the fence. Small. Curious. Mama, sprechen Sie wirklich Deutsch? Anna's gaze shifted again. A little girl stood barefoot in the grass, holding onto the fence with both hands, eyes wide with interest, not fear. Not hostility. Just curiosity. German. Fluent. Unforced. Anna's fingers tightened slightly at her sides. Just enough to feel it. Not enough for anyone else to notice. The world in front of her didn't match the one she had prepared for. Not even close. And for the first time since stepping off the truck, she didn't feel guarded. She felt uncertain. Quietly, precisely uncertain. No one gave an order to move. Yet movement began anyway, small and uncertain, like a habit that no longer had clear instructions. The women stepped forward in a loose line, boots pressing into gravel, each step measured, each breath controlled. Anna walked near the middle, neither leading nor following, her eyes still scanning, still collecting details that did not belong together. The woman with the basket remained where she was, waiting without urgency. When Anna came closer, she could see the cloth inside the basket shift slightly in the breeze, revealing the corner of something wrapped. Bread, maybe. The smell confirmed it before her eyes did. Fresh. Not stale. Not rationed. Real bread. Anna did not reach for it. No one did. The distance between offering and acceptance held, thin but unbroken. Sergeant Daniel Brooks finally moved, but not toward them. He stepped to the side, giving space, as if this moment did not require his presence. His boots made a soft sound against the dirt road. He said nothing. That, more than anything, felt deliberate. The older woman looked from one face to another, then spoke again, slower this time, as if choosing each word with care. Kann essen, wenn machtet. You can eat, if you would like. Her voice carried no pressure. No expectation. Just an option. One of the younger prisoners shifted forward half a step, then stopped, glancing toward Anna without meaning to. Anna noticed. She always noticed. She gave the smallest nod. Not permission, just absence of resistance. That was enough. The girl stepped closer, reached out, and took a piece of bread from the basket. Her fingers hesitated for a second, as if expecting something to change at the last moment. Nothing did. She broke off a small piece, brought it to her mouth, and paused again. Then she ate. The reaction was not dramatic. No sudden emotion. Just stillness. She chewed slowly, carefully, like someone relearning a forgotten rhythm. The others watched. One by one, they moved closer. The space tightened, not with fear, but with quiet attention. Anna stepped forward last. She did not reach immediately. Her eyes stayed on the woman's face, studying the lines, the expression, the absence of anything hidden. Woher kommen Sie? Anna asked finally. Where are you from? The woman smiled slightly, not surprised by the question. Ursprünglich? Bayern. Originally, Bavaria. The word landed differently. Not foreign. Not distant. Familiar. Too familiar. Anna's hand moved then, almost without instruction, taking a piece of bread. It was warm. She felt it through her fingers before she tasted it. Heat. Softness. Real. She took a small bite. The texture was simple. Flour, water, thyme. Nothing more. Nothing less. Around her, the village continued its quiet routine. A man crossed the street carrying a wooden crate. Another adjusted the brim of his hat and nodded once towards Sergeant Brooks, who returned the gesture with the same restrained ease. No tension. No spectacle. Just people existing in a way that did not align with anything Anna had been told to expect. She swallowed. Slowly. The taste lingered longer than it should have. Not because of hunger. Because of context. Because of what it meant. She looked down at the bread in her hand, then back at the woman. Warm since Sie here? Why are you here? The question came softer this time. Not defensive. Not confrontational. Just precise. The woman adjusted the cloth in the basket, covering what remained. While ich geblieben bin, she said. Because I stayed. Anna held her gaze for a moment longer. No further explanation followed. None was needed. Something inside her shifted again. Not broken. Not replaced. Just adjusted. Slightly. Irreversibly. The morning did not rush forward. It unfolded slowly, as if time itself had decided to move differently in this place. The women were guided down the narrow dirt road, not in formation, not under shouted commands, but with a quiet understanding of direction. Sergeant Daniel Brooks walked ahead now, not turning back, trusting they would follow. And they did. Anna kept her pace steady, the piece of bread still in her hand, though she had stopped eating. The village revealed itself in fragments. A wooden fence with chipped white paint. A bicycle leaning against a tree. Curtains shifting behind open windows. Nothing hidden. Nothing staged. It felt lived in. A man stood outside a small store, adjusting a chalkboard sign. He glanced up as they passed. His eyes rested on them for a moment. Not cold, not curious in the way Anna expected. Just aware. Then he spoke, almost casually. Der Laden Offnet in einer Stunde. The shop opens in an hour. Anna's steps slowed. Not enough to stop the line, but enough to notice. Again, the language. Again, without effort. The pattern was no longer coincidence. One of the women behind her whispered, "How many of them?" but did not finish the sentence. Anna understood the question anyway. She did not answer. Ahead, the road curved slightly, leading toward a cluster of buildings that looked more official. A small administrative office, perhaps. A flag moved gently on a pole, the fabric catching light in a way that made it seem almost weightless. Brooks stopped near the entrance and turned, finally addressing them. His voice was calm, measured, each word clear. You will be staying nearby? Work assignments will be explained later. You will be treated fairly. If you follow instructions, there will be no problems. He paused, as if considering something else, then added, If you need anything, you ask. No threat followed. No warning layered beneath the words. Just a statement. Simple. Direct. He stepped aside and opened the door. One by one, the women entered. Anna stepped inside last. The room was modest. A desk. A few chairs. Papers stacked neatly. A map pinned to the wall. She moved closer to it without thinking. Lines, names, borders. Familiar shapes arranged in unfamiliar context. Her eyes traced one section, then another, until something caught her attention. A name. Small. Almost overlooked. But not to her. She stepped closer. Inches now. The paper held steady under her gaze. It was a town. Her town. The spelling was correct. The placement exact. Not a rough approximation. Not a guess. Precision. She did not touch the map. Her hand hovered, then dropped back to her side. Behind her, one of the other women spoke softly to the clerk at the desk. In German. The clerk responded the same way. Fluent. Patient. As if this exchange belonged here. Anna exhaled slowly. Not deeply. Just enough to feel it. The room remained quiet, but not empty. Every sound had weight. Every word had meaning that extended beyond itself. She looked at the map again, then at the man behind the desk, then toward the open door where sunlight still touched the floor in a clean line. This was not confusion anymore. It was something else. Something more precise. Not that they were in the wrong place, but that the place itself did not fit the version of the world she had carried with her. And for the first time, she understood that the distance between those two things was not small. The room did not change, but the meaning of it did. Anna stepped back from the map, not abruptly, not with hesitation, but with a controlled shift, as if placing distance between herself and something that had come too close. The clerk behind the desk continued writing, his pen moving steadily across paper, the scratching. Sounds soft but consistent, like a clock marking time in a place where no one had asked it to. One of the women asked a question, her voice low, careful. The clerk answered without looking up. In German, not searching for words, not translating in his head, speaking. Naturally, Anna turned her attention to him fully now. His posture was relaxed, shoulders slightly forward, sleeves rolled just enough to suggest routine rather than formality. He was not performing this. That was the detail that settled deepest. Across the room, Sergeant Daniel Brooks stood near the doorway, half in shadow, half in light. He watched, but not closely, not in the way of supervision. More like observation without interference. His presence did not interrupt the rhythm of the room. It allowed it. Anna noticed that as well. A small thing, but not insignificant. The older woman from the road entered quietly, placing the basket on a side table. The cloth shifted again, revealing what remained inside. Bread. Still warm. Still real. She did not announce herself. She simply existed within the space, as if she belonged to it in a way that required no explanation. Anna's gaze moved between them. The clerk. The woman. The others speaking in a language that should have marked a boundary, but did not. Something in her memory adjusted again, searching for alignment and not finding it. She stepped closer to the desk. Not too close. Just enough to be part of the exchange. Wheelang Shan, she asked. How long? The clerk paused, pen lifting slightly before he answered. He looked up this time, meeting her eyes directly. Sadich and kind war, he said. Since I was a child. His tone held no emphasis. No pride. Just fact. Anna held his gaze for a moment longer, measuring the distance between what he said and what it meant. It was not the language itself. It was the history behind it. The time. The continuity. This was not recent. Not accidental. Not learned for convenience. It had roots. Deep ones. She nodded once, a small acknowledgement, then stepped back again. The room continued around her, unchanged on the surface, but altered beneath it. One of the women laughed softly at something the older woman said. A brief sound. Unplanned. It faded quickly, but it left something behind. A trace. Anna turned slightly toward the door. Outside, the same village remained. The same quiet movement. The same ordinary life. She watched a man across the street lift a crate into the back of a truck, his movements steady, practiced. No urgency. No strain. Just repetition of a task done many times before. She looked down at her hand. The bread was still there, the edge slightly torn where she had taken a bite earlier. She had forgotten she was holding it. Or maybe she had chosen not to notice. Slowly, she raised it again, took another small bite, and this time she did not pause before chewing. The taste was the same. Simple. Consistent. But the context had shifted. Not dramatically. Not all at once. Just enough. She swallowed, then looked back inside the room, at the people moving within it, speaking, working, existing in a way that did not align with anything she had prepared herself to face. And in that quiet, measured moment, she understood something with a clarity that did not need to be spoken. This place was not pretending to be something else. It was simply itself, and that was what made it difficult to understand. The sound of the pen stopped. Not abruptly, not with intention, but at a point where the sentence had simply reached its end. The clerk placed it down beside the paper, aligning it carefully with the edge of the desk, as if order itself mattered here. Anna noticed that detail. The alignment. The precision. It was not about control. It was about habit. Outside, the light had shifted slightly, moving across the floor in a slow, deliberate line. Time was passing, but nothing in the room felt rushed by it. Sergeant Daniel Brooks stepped fully inside now, closing the distance between himself and the others without drawing attention to the movement. He rested his hand briefly on the back of a chair, then spoke, his voice steady, even. Assignments will begin tomorrow morning. Today is for settling in. He paused, allowing the words to exist without pressure. You will be staying in the house across the road. No one reacted immediately, not because they did not understand, because they were still measuring what understanding meant here. One of the women shifted her weight again, her eyes moving toward the door, then back to Brooks. In the village? She asked quietly, in English this time, careful with each word. Brooks nodded once. Yes. Nothing more followed. No explanation. No justification. Just confirmation. The older woman by the table adjusted the cloth over the basket again, then lifted it, holding it out slightly, as if offering what remained without insisting. Anna stepped forward before she had fully decided to. Her hand reached out, taking another piece of bread, smaller this time. The warmth had faded slightly, but it was still there. She held it for a moment, then spoke, not to Brooks, not to the clerk, but to the woman. Why do you still speak it? The question was quiet, but it carried further than she expected. The room stilled, not in tension, but in attention. The woman met her gaze, her expression unchanged. Because it was never something I needed to forget, she said. Simple, direct, no weight added, no defense. Anna considered that. Not the words themselves, but the absence of effort behind them. Across the room, one of the other women sat down slowly, the chair making a soft sound against the wooden floor. She looked around as if expecting something to contradict what she was seeing. Nothing did. Brooks moved toward the door again, opening it just enough for the outside air to move through. You can step outside, he said. No one is stopping you. The statement was neutral, but it settled differently than anything before it. No one moved right away. Then, gradually, one of them did. Then another. The space between inside and outside narrowed with each step. Anna remained where she was for a moment longer. Her eyes moved once more to the map on the wall, then to the desk, then to the woman holding the basket, and finally to the doorway where light now stretched wider across the floor. She stepped forward, crossing that line without hesitation. Outside, the village remained unchanged. The same quiet rhythm, the same steady motion. A man tipped his hat slightly as she passed, not as a gesture of superiority, not as performance, just acknowledgement. Anna slowed her pace, just enough to feel the difference in the ground beneath her boots. Gravel to packed dirt. Subtle, but real. She looked around, not searching now, but seeing. Truly seeing. And in that moment, the question that had formed earlier returned, but it no longer carried confusion. It carried something else, something closer to clarity. Not whether they were in the wrong country, but whether they had ever truly understood any of it at all. The air outside carried more than just warmth. It carried continuity. Anna stepped further into the road, not with caution now, but with a quiet awareness that each step was being observed in a different way than she had known before. Not judged, not measured for weakness, simply seen. A wagon rolled slowly past at the far end of the street, its wooden wheels turning with a soft rhythm against the dirt, the driver lifting his hand in a brief greeting towards Sergeant Daniel Brooks, who returned it with the same understated motion. No hierarchy in the gesture, no performance, just recognition. Anna noticed the distance between them. Not physical distance, something else, the kind that usually defined roles. Here, it seemed thinner. One of the other women moved ahead of her, stepping closer to a fence where the small girl still stood. The girl did not retreat. She leaned forward instead, her fingers curling over the top rail, her eyes fixed with a curiosity that had not been taught to hide. Ist es anders? The girl asked. Is it different? The question was simple, but it carried weight beyond her years. The woman hesitated, searching for a word that could hold an answer without revealing too much. Ja, she said finally. Yes. The girl nodded, as if that confirmed something she already believed. Then she smiled. Not wide, not exaggerated, just enough. Anna watched the exchange without stepping closer. Her attention shifted instead to a house across the road. White siding, blue shutters, a porch with 2 chairs placed side by side, both facing outward, as if waiting for someone who had not arrived yet. The door stood slightly open, not fully, just enough to suggest that it did not need to be closed. Brooks walked toward it, stopping at the bottom of the steps. He did not call out. He did not knock. He simply turned slightly, indicating the house with a small movement of his hand. This is where you will stay, he said. The words settled without resistance. No one questioned them, but no one moved immediately either. Anna approached last again. She placed her foot on the first step, feeling the wood beneath it, solid, unmoving. The kind of structure built to last. She paused there, just long enough to register the absence of something she had expected. No guard at the door. No barrier. No instruction to wait. Just space. She stepped up onto the porch. The boards creaked softly under her weight, a sound so ordinary it felt unfamiliar. Inside, the house was simple. Clean. A table near the window. Chairs placed evenly. A pitcher of water already set out. Condensation forming along its surface in small, precise drops. Someone had prepared this. Not recently. Not in a hurry. Thoughtfully. Anna moved inside, her eyes taking in each detail without lingering too long on any one thing. A folded blanket on a chair. A pair of shoes near the wall. Signs of life, but not clutter. Intentional. One of the women reached for the pitcher, pouring water into a glass with careful hands. She drank slowly, then stopped, as if surprised by the act itself. Anna stepped toward the window. Outside, the village continued as it had before. No one watched directly, but nothing was hidden. She rested her hand lightly on the frame, feeling the texture of the wood, worn smooth in places where others had touched it before her. Behind her, Brooks remained near the doorway, not entering fully, not leaving. A presence without pressure. Anna turned her head slightly, just enough to see him. You trust this, she said. Not a question, not quite a statement. Something in between. Brooks met her gaze, his expression unchanged. We do not need to make everything harder than it is, he replied. No explanation followed. None was offered. Anna looked at him for a moment longer, then back out the window. The world outside remained steady, unchanged. And yet, the way she stood within it had shifted again. Not completely, not all at once, but enough to make the ground beneath her feel different. The house settled around them in a way that felt almost deliberate, as if it had been waiting to be occupied again. Not claimed, not controlled, simply used. Anna remained by the window for a moment longer, her hand still resting lightly against the frame, before she let it fall back to her side. Behind her, the others moved slowly through the space, not exploring, not inspecting, but adjusting. One opened a cabinet and paused, looking at neatly stacked plates. Another ran her fingers across the back of a chair, as if confirming it was real. No one spoke loudly. Voices stayed low, measured, careful not to disturb something that did not feel fragile, yet still required respect. The pitcher of water was passed from one to another, each taking only what they needed. No one reached twice. Anna turned slightly, her eyes following the movement without focusing on any one person. This was not the behavior of prisoners. Not exactly, but it was not freedom either. It existed somewhere between, in a space that had no clear definition. Outside, the sound of footsteps approached the porch. Light, unhurried. The small girl appeared again, this time stopping at the edge of the steps. She did not come closer. She did not call out. She simply stood there, holding something in her hands. A small object, wrapped in cloth. Anna noticed before anyone else did. She stepped toward the door, not quickly, not cautiously, but with the same measured pace she had used since stepping off the truck that morning. When she reached the doorway, she stopped just inside, leaving the distance intact. The girl lifted the object slightly, as if offering it without crossing the boundary herself. For you, she said quietly. For you. Anna looked at the cloth, then at the girl's face. There was no hesitation there. No fear. Just a simple intention, carried out without complication. Anna extended her hand, taking the bundle carefully. It was lighter than she expected. Warm, but not from heat. From being held. She unwrapped it slowly, the fabric folding back in. Small, precise movements. Inside was a pocket watch. Old. Worn at the edges. The metal dull in places where time had touched it repeatedly. Anna's fingers stilled. She did not open it immediately. She did not need to. The weight alone told her enough. Behind her, one of the women stepped closer, her voice barely above a whisper. "What is it?" Anna did not answer right away. Instead, she turned the watch over in her hand, her thumb tracing along the edge until she found the small latch. She pressed it. The cover opened with a soft click. Inside, engraved in careful lettering, was a name. German. And beneath it, a date. Years before the war. Years before any of this. Anna's breath shifted, just slightly. Not a gasp. Not a reaction anyone else would notice. But it changed. The girl watched her, her head tilted just a fraction, as if waiting for something she could not yet define. "It was my grandfather's," she said after a moment. "He came from there." She did not finish the sentence. She did not need to. Anna closed the watch gently, the sound quieter this time. She looked at the girl, then down at the object in her hand, then back again. The distance between them remained. But something within it had changed. Not removed. Not erased. Just altered. She stepped forward one more pace, enough to stand at the threshold. "Why give this to us?" she asked, her voice steady even. The girl considered the question, her answer forming without hesitation. "Because you would understand it," she said. No emphasis. No uncertainty. Just truth as she saw it. Anna held the watch a moment longer, then nodded once. A small motion, but deliberate. Behind her, the others had gone still again, their attention drawn not by the object itself, but by what it represented. Anna did not look back at them. She remained where she was, standing between inside and outside, holding something that no longer belonged entirely to one side or the other. And in that quiet, unspoken moment, she understood that the line she had been standing on since morning was no longer where it had been. Anna did not step back inside. Not yet. The watch rested in her palm, its weight no longer just metal, but something layered, something that carried time across places that were never meant to meet. The girl had already lowered her hands, as if the act of giving required no follow-up, no expectation. She remained at the base of the porch, looking up, not waiting for approval, not seeking a reaction, just present. Behind Anna, the quiet inside the house deepened. No one moved forward to interrupt. No one spoke. The stillness was not empty. It held attention. Anna turned the watch once more, her thumb brushing across the engraved name. The letters were worn slightly, softened by years of touch, but still clear. She knew the structure of the name, the order, the way it belonged to a place she could picture without effort. Streets, windows, a church tower that caught the morning light in a very specific way. She closed the watch again, slower this time, as if the motion itself mattered. Outside, the breeze shifted, moving through the trees, carrying a faint rustle that passed through the village without disturbing it. The same rhythm, the same steadiness. Nothing changed to acknowledge what had just happened. That, more than anything, made it real. Anna stepped down from the threshold, one step, then another, until she stood on the ground facing the girl directly. The distance between them was small now, close enough to see the details that distance usually hides. The faint freckles across the girl's nose. The way her hair had been tied back without much care. The simplicity of it. Anna lowered her hand slightly, holding the watch where it could be seen. "Your grandfather," she said, her voice even, not questioning, not confirming, simply placing the words between them. The girl nodded once. "He used to say it sounded like home when people spoke like that," she replied, her eyes steady. Anna absorbed that without response. Not because she had nothing to say, because there was too much. Behind her, one of the women shifted near the doorway, the floorboards creaking softly, but she did not step outside. The line between inside and outside remained, but it felt thinner now. Not erased, just less defined. Anna looked down at the watch again, then extended her hand slightly. Toward the girl. Not to return it. Not to give it away. Just enough to acknowledge that it existed between them now, shared in a way that did not require ownership. The girl did not take it. She did not reach out. She simply looked at it, then back at Anna, and gave a small nod, as if that was enough. Anna drew her hand back, holding the watch close again. A gesture of care. Not possession. Somewhere across the road, a door opened, and a man stepped out carrying a bucket, heading toward a well with the same unhurried pace everything else seemed to follow. Life continued. Not around them. Through them. Anna exhaled slowly, her shoulders lowering just slightly, a change so subtle it might have gone unnoticed by anyone who had not been watching from the beginning. But it was there. The tension that had held her since arrival had not disappeared. It had shifted, redirected, no longer outward, no longer fixed on what might happen. It had turned inward, toward something more difficult to define. She looked at the girl one last time, then turned her head slightly toward the house, toward the others, toward the space that was now meant to hold them. "We will take care of it," she said quietly. Not a promise, not an obligation, something closer to understanding. The girl accepted the words without question, her expression unchanged, her presence steady. Anna stepped back, turning toward the porch, the watch still in her hand, its weight now balanced by something else she could not yet name. And as she crossed that threshold again, she understood that nothing in this place was asking her to forget where she came from. It was asking something far more difficult, to see it differently. The house grew quieter as the afternoon stretched into evening, not because activity had stopped, but because everything had found its place. The movements inside were no longer uncertain. They were measured, deliberate, almost familiar. Anna placed the watch carefully on the table near the window, not hidden, not displayed, simply set where it could exist without drawing attention. The light outside softened, shifting from sharp morning clarity into something warmer, something that held shadows without making them heavy. One by one, the others settled into small routines. A chair pulled closer to the window, a glass refilled, a blanket adjusted across the back of a seat. No instructions were given. None were needed. The structure of the space guided them more than any voice could. Anna remained standing for a moment longer than the others, her eyes resting on the watch where it lay. It did not look different. The same worn edges, the same engraved name. But the meaning had changed. Not because of where it came from, because of where it now rested. Outside, the village continued with its quiet consistency. A lantern was lit across the road, its glow steady, not flickering. Somewhere, a door closed softly. Somewhere else, a voice called out, then faded into the distance. No urgency, no tension, just life moving forward without asking permission. Anna stepped toward the table, her fingers brushing lightly against the surface before she picked up the watch again. She did not open it this time. She did not need to. Instead, she held it in her palm, feeling the weight settle naturally, no longer unfamiliar. Behind her, Sergeant Daniel Brooks stood near the doorway, his presence unchanged from before. Not intrusive, not absent. He had not spoken for some time. That, too, seemed intentional. Anna turned slightly toward him, not fully, just enough to acknowledge that he was there. "You knew," she said quietly. Not a question, not an accusation, just a recognition. Brooks met her gaze, his expression steady, his posture relaxed. "We live here," he replied. The words were simple, but they carried more than explanation. They carried context. Anna considered that, her eyes moving briefly toward the window, then back again. The answer did not resolve anything. It did something else. It removed the need for resolution. She nodded once, a small, precise motion that closed the space between question and understanding. The others had begun to sit now, their movements slower, less guarded. One of them let out a breath she had been holding for longer than she realized. Another leaned back slightly, her shoulders lowering as if the weight she carried had shifted, just enough to allow it. Anna walked to the window again, the watch still in her hand. Outside, the small girl was no longer by the fence. The space she had occupied was empty, but not absent. It remained part of the scene, just as everything else did. Anna rested her hand against the frame once more, the same place she had stood earlier, but not in the same way. The difference was subtle, but it was there. She looked out at the village, at the houses, the road, the quiet movement that continued without interruption. Nothing had changed, and yet everything had. She lifted the watch slightly, just enough to feel its presence again, then lowered it back to her side. The line she had been standing on since morning was no longer visible. Not because it had disappeared, because she had stepped beyond it without noticing the exact moment it happened. She did not speak again. She did not need to. The understanding settled in the same way the evening light did, gradually, without force, without demand. And in that stillness, Anna realized something she could not have named before. They had not arrived in the wrong place. They had arrived with the wrong certainty. And that was the part that had finally begun to change.